Welcome, current and future entrepreneurs. As you remember from our video last week, the CEO of Inc. magazine said, anyone that takes control of their economic destiny is an entrepreneur. So we're all entrepreneurs. We all have to figure out ways to take care of ourselves. And we love this lecture series because you meet some amazing role models. Tonight we have Shauna Smith with us and her son Christian. And Jaden will introduce her in just a minute. But first, just a couple of logistics. You know by now that if you're taking this class for credit, you have to grab a form out in the back and just list 5 things that you learned from the speaker. You turn it into the back table, and that's how we know you attended, and that's how we give you credit. So make sure you do that. Also, you have a really brief, short paper at the end of the semester, just a summary. What are the main things that you learned from this class that'll help you going forward in your career? And so it's a good idea to take a picture of your summary each week so you'll have that content. Otherwise, you might not be able to remember what you learned and what you want to put in that final paper. So make sure you do that, and then things work out great. When you turn these papers in, your check mark in Canvas will be posted by Thursday. So if Monday, Tuesday you look and you say, hey, I attended and I didn't get credit, it'll always be posted on Thursdays, okay? So I'm going to turn the time over to Jaden and Paige for an activity, and then Jaden's going to introduce Shauna. But let me just ask, did any of you register, declare the minor in entrepreneurship last week? Raise your hand if you did. Okay, good. We have a surprise for you. How about the rest of you? How many have actually declared the minor in entrepreneurship? Okay, awesome. Paige?
Okay, so if you scanned the QR code last week to sign up for the E-minor, I need you to raise your hand again. And if you are already registered for the E-minor and don't have a t-shirt, I need you to raise your hand. And He-Man and Max and Ben are gonna throw out some t-shirts. They're just gonna give you a random size. If it's not the right size, you can come up to the E-Center on the 2nd floor of the Gardner building and come to the front office and we'll give you a different size. So they'll run around and give those to you guys. So thank you. Oh, also, I'll say one more thing. As these slides are cycling through, there's one for the RISE program. I know a lot of you scanned it last week, but if you guys are interested in joining the incubator for small businesses, you can scan that and apply for that on there. So make sure to do that as well.
All right. Without further ado, it is my privilege to introduce Shauna Smith. She was the previous CEO and now managing director of Savory Fund. With over 15 years of executive leadership experience, she has been instrumental in the development and operation of over 400 restaurants across a dozen states. And with those 400 restaurants, she's generated over $2.5 billion in revenue and provided jobs for over 40,000 people. Shauna's expertise in growth, efficiency, and site replication has led her to become the recipient of several prestigious awards. She has led her company to the Inc. 500 list. She's been awarded the CEO of the Year Award, CXO of the Year Award, and the Women to Watch Award. A truly accomplished and inspirational individual. Please welcome Shauna Smith.
I'm so excited to be here. Sorry, that was a mouthful. Sometimes, writing those bios, it's like, how much do you leave on? How much do you leave off? But I know if I'm you sitting in the audience, I kind of want to know who this person is and why I should listen to them. So thanks for sharing that. First, let me just start with a compliment to all of you. You have so many options. You could be scrolling right now. You could be streaming. You could be multitasking. You could be doing so many things, and you are here. And that tells me that you take your future seriously. And of all the things that you could be doing, you're here. So I'm really impressed by all of you already. Pat yourselves on the back. Congratulations. You are the hope of the future, for sure. Pat yourselves. I see it. Well, let's just jump right into it. Well, some of you heard from my husband, Andrew, last year. He is such a joy to be around. Andrew is magnetic, and I'll tell you a little more about how we met later. But he is just one of those people who really is enjoyable. So all the stories that he shared, now you get to hear the other side of it. Jumping in, let me just introduce you to, I'm pushing forward. Let's see, maybe it's not on. Let's turn that on. Aha. There we go. Oh, you clicked it. Okay, let's see. I have this effect on technology. I'll get started while we get this going. You're going to see in a minute a picture of my family. My family, they're my number one. My favorite job yet is being a wife and mom. I have 2 sons. I have Christian, who's here with me tonight, who also happens to be my assistant. He's the only one that can keep up with me. He is 25. He is a student at UVU and also an entrepreneur. He has built his own app. It's a journaling app, an AI journaling app, and it's they're launching it right now. I don't even know what phase it's in, but I'm just so impressed by him and all that he's doing. He married a darling girl, which we are so grateful to have her join the family. Her name is Taylor. You know, you pray for a daughter-in-law who loves you as much as you love them, and she is just that. She's a delight, and we're so grateful to have her in the family. And then we have Tobin, who is 20 years old. Tobin is on a mission in Sao Paulo. He is coming home at the end of June. We are so excited to get him home. And we actually got to see one of his companions tonight, who's here with us. I'm so glad to see you, Riker. And just it makes your night to see people who have seen your son in these last 2 years. So really, we're so excited. But my family, they're just a delight. And then there's Andrew. Andrew is, I feel like one of I'll share some lessons learned here as we go. But I would say one of the greatest accomplishments or choices and decisions that I made was choosing a good partner. So that's definitely one of my lessons learned is choose well, if you can. You can't always, but choose well. He was a great choice. Best decision I've ever made is Andrew Smith. And he's just a bundle of energy, and I've always tried to keep up with him, even though he says the opposite. He says he's keeping up with me. So my love language is memes, and I'm going to share with you a couple memes to break the ice a little bit. I just want to share a few that I found and loved. Okay, the first one. Why should I ever learn to cook when I have cereal, which is a meal, a dessert, and a drink? You college students probably feel that a lot. Here's another one. I know my mom looks at my posts like, I did all I could do. And the last one, this is hilarious. Going to work is so embarrassing. Like, I'm telling everyone I need money. So that just breaks the ice a little bit for me. It's my love language with my missionary, also with my family, and I think it was one of the highlights of COVID. You know, that was like when memes really made an entrance. So definitely a highlight of COVID. Jumping into my story. So tonight I'm going to share my story, and hopefully there's some learnings for you in the story. But also at the end, I'll share a few lessons learned, because of course along the way you learn a lot. And it's hard to just name a few, so I'm only naming a few for now, but along the way I'll be sure to pack a few in. My story of my career actually starts with a time when I was a stay-at-home mom. I had a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old. This is little boy Tobin, little boy Christian. And I was a stay-at-home mom, and I loved it. I loved what I was doing. I knew, though, that I wanted to do something more. I didn't know what it was, but I was on the lookout for it. And we had just moved to Highland, Utah. And when we moved there, there was literally only a Subway. And when I think about those days, we would have to drive like 30 minutes to get anything delicious. And so in my mind, I thought, well, surely I'm not the only person who wants something delicious in my neighborhood. And if I wanted something delicious in my neighborhood, what would it be? And I thought I would want a bakery and a cafe. And so that's what I set out to do. I approached Andrew. Many of you have heard this story. I approached Andrew and said, I have an idea. I want to open a restaurant. It is going to be something that I can do on the side and still be a mom and all of that. And maybe I'll get some friends to come and work with me. It'll be great. And if you heard Andrew's presentation last year, he actually thought it was a terrible idea because restaurants had a reputation for not actually being very successful. And there was just not much that he thought would be, he just didn't think it would be a good idea overall. So, but instead, he said, of course, let me support you in this. Let's do it. So this was also at a time in 2007 is kind of when we started this idea, and it ended up opening in 2008. And I don't know if many of you know about that time or that era, but that was during what we called, or what is called, the Great Financial Crisis. And it really was a time when people were pulling back on their spending. There was people losing jobs left and right, and probably not the best time to open a restaurant. And yet, we opened that restaurant in October of 2008, and it was busy. I would say slammed. It was so busy, and just didn't even know how to handle how many people were coming in our doors. Obviously, there was demand there, and people did want it. But not only that, I think they were looking for something more during that time. They probably needed, I don't know, a little bit of comfort food, trying to feel normal. And so that was the beginning of this whole thing. So we opened one restaurant, and one restaurant turned into 50. But when I think about how this all started, it is so simple, you guys. Necessity is the mother of invention. And I'll tell you why in just a second, even more, another couple of reasons. But this all started because I was hungry. All of this started back with that one restaurant because I was hungry. So if you think about that, that's an interesting point, a lesson to learn. Necessity is the mother of invention. We opened 50 Kneaders Bakery and Cafes. We opened the one here in Logan. Spent many nights here in Logan, Utah, and especially holiday season because that was kind of our Super Bowl. So loved those days. And we opened it in the fall season, so we got to enjoy the beauty of the fall here in the Logan Valley. It's gorgeous. So today, let me make sure I don't need to cover anything. Okay. So how this all happened. When I say necessity is the mother of invention, so we started one unit. What we quickly realized was we were creating jobs at a time when a lot of people were losing jobs. And so we wanted to create more jobs. And so in order to do that, you needed to build more businesses. And so we built more Kneaders. But in the meantime, we also realized it's very hard to work in the business and on the business, meaning as an operator, you're inside those four walls and it sucks you in like a vacuum and it does not let you out. How are you going to run payroll and make sure the insurance is all handled and that the payments are being made for utilities and that lease is being run and all of the other bills that are being handled. And oh, by the way, you also need to make sure HR and all of those other things. And as you can imagine, there's a lot of the back end that is needed to sustain a business. And so we quickly realized we need a platform that supports the operators. And so that's how our first business was started, was 4 Foods Group. Again, necessity, the mother of invention. And then we were one store turned into 50, one brand turned into 5 brands. And the way we were funding it just wasn't sustainable. And what we realized was we need a sustainable way to fund the growth because our goal was to continue to grow, creating opportunity, continuing to grow these brands. And so then that's when we learned about the opportunity of becoming a private equity firm. And so that's how we transitioned into Savory, where we are today. So all along the way, necessity literally was the mother of our evolution. And we found the need and we accommodated to that. So that's one of the big lessons for me, what we've accomplished, or our brands, I guess I should say. These are a few of our brands. Some you know, some you may not know. There's a couple from back east or Miami, but you guys know R&R Barbecue, you know Via 313, Mo Betta's, Swig, Hash Kitchen is in Salt Lake area, Bonru in St. George. It used to be called Farmstead. We could talk trademarks someday. They had to change their name because they didn't have the trademark. Anyway, and all the others. Houston's is down in the valley too. But these are a few of the brands that we represent, and it really is rewarding work. We love it. Love what we do. I was sharing with the group earlier, I am Southern, born and raised in Alabama. And so hospitality is in my DNA. I love to serve people through food. And so being able to do what I'm doing I love what I do. It doesn't even feel like work. Here are a few stats. Got to throw those out because, the team works very hard. But to be honest, until I put this slide together, I didn't even know what the stats were. So a few restaurants we've built in several states, and we've created some sales, some revenue. But the most important, or I'd say, let's see, I don't know how to do. The 40,000 jobs created. You heard my story about opening in 2008 and being in the middle of the GFC. And it took me a while to tell this story without crying, but we would be interviewing people for the sandwich maker position, and we would ask them, tell us about your resume and what you've done. And they would say, I was just laid off. I literally was in the boardroom yesterday, and now I don't have a job, and I just need to put food on the table. So, you experience a few of those, and it starts it pulls at your heartstrings. And so job creation became very important. We realized that we were helping to sustain families. And I also realized, at that time and ever since, philanthropy is a calling. It is such a good calling. And I personally can't think of a better way to be a philanthropist than to be an entrepreneur. It is an incredible way of giving back to create businesses that employ people so that they can support and sustain their own lives and their families' lives. If you think about that, that's ultimately what we're trying to do with philanthropy. So entrepreneurs are the ultimate philanthropists, if you ask me. So that's Savory at a glance. What I do on a daily basis. Value creation. Oh, I have this groovy screen. Thank you. I didn't even see this up here. Value creation. So Jaden shared a little bit about growth, efficiency, site replication. Those are not just buzzwords for us. That's actually our focus every day. If it doesn't fall into one of those buckets, we are not focused on it. We're not doing it. Now, there's a lot to growth, efficiency, and site replication. But simply put, growth is sales growth. It's positive same-store sales, and then it's positive transactions. Positive transactions and same-store sales in any business is an indication of a healthy business. Efficiency is going to be just your profitability, optimization overall, bottom line, making sure that you continue to create more and sustainable profit. And then site replication, new restaurant openings and new markets. Really, when I think about those three, you can't have one without the other. You need them all to be a healthy and a successful business. And if you ever wanted to sell, those are very important. But site replication is actually, it contributes to about 70% of the ultimate value of the company. So new units, that definitely is a contributor. So that is what I do every day at Savory. I wanted to just share with you a little bit about the secret sauce of scale. It's not so secret. This is really not very secret, but I wanted to share it because all of you someday are going to have a business that you need to scale. You may not be scaling by opening new units like we are, new restaurants, but you are going to scale and grow in some way. That is what you want to do with business. So number one need for scaling a brand is to have a strong brand. It's the identity, it's your brand promise, and it's consistency. Anytime we are inconsistent in our brands, you start to see less and less traffic. That transactions, they go down because we're not consistent with what we're offering, whether it's inconsistent service or food or whatever it could be. Consistency matters. Team, talent plus culture plus accountability. I'll share a little more on these two because I thought I would deep dive at least on a couple with you. And then strategy, clear roadmap, repeatable model, and metrics. You will want to know where you're going. I would say you want to know 5 years out where you're headed and to have a strategic model in some way. There are a lot of finance majors here. I would say get with a finance major and make sure that you have a good strategic model planned out. You need capital. You need funding. You need strong unit economics, and then you also need that scalable infrastructure. And then you need your why, and I'll tell you why. Because being an entrepreneur, owning a business, scaling a business is hard. It's not for the faint of heart. And so when you think about those days where you're coming in and you're having to do something difficult, or you're dreading maybe a specific meeting, or maybe you have to fire someone, you have to have a strong why that keeps you waking up in the morning, getting out of bed, and showing up. I have my why. I'll share it with you in a minute, but it is important to have your why. All right, let's talk strong brand. So when you have a strong brand, you need to know that it's got a good story, it's got a great culture, and product performance, and it's optimized. When I think about a strong brand, and one that you probably all know, it's Swig. Swig is a great brand. I'll tell you why Swig is a strong brand that has a great culture, product, all of that, because Swig knows exactly who they are. They know exactly who they are, and they stick to it. And here's an example of them knowing who they are and sticking to it. So one of what we call a sacred cow at Swig is our line speeds. How many of you have been to Swig? You get through the line pretty quick, right? It's very important that we keep the line speeds fast. Everyone knows you're going to get in line, you're going to be in and out in 10 minutes, max, if it's a long line. Well, once upon a time, we thought we would get cute and add breakfast sandwiches to the menu. And what we thought we would do is we'd pre-make them every morning, and then when they were ordered, we popped them in this cooker that's like a microwave plus an oven in the same thing. And they'd cook for 2 minutes, and then we'd send them out the window. Well, what we realized was it actually lengthened the wait time. And if car 1 ordered one, and then car 2 and car 3 all did that, well, by car 4 and 5, they were waiting for almost 20 minutes longer. So what we realized was we can't do that. We're going to have to just stay true to who we are, because line speeds are very important to us. And we had that conversation over and over. Let's see, what else? You know, there's these little moments where like people will reach out to do collaborations with Swig, and they just know enough about who they are and who their audience is that they're like, thank you, no thank you. And then other times that they say yes. I'll tell you right now, I'll tell you a funny story. I'll tell you 2 stories about Swig. The first one, our COO was approached, and they said, you know, we want to have you just let us film in one of your buildings, one of your spaces for this upcoming reality show, and it's just going to be a bunch of girls chatting and this and that. And they were like, okay. So they signed the agreement saying, yeah, we would love to have you guys come. And little did they know that it was going to be Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. That's the one. Yeah. Who knew? And so what's funny, though, is the COO was like, I don't know if I would have signed it if I knew what it was called. I mean, that sounds a little controversial, but signed it. It ended up being a great thing for the brand. Another thing, as you guys know, Swig coined dirty and dirty soda. Do you know how it happened? This is actually the craziest story. Back when we were unit number 1, there was a regular who would come through. I think she was a nurse or worked at a doctor's office. She would come through and was a regular customer. And the founder was there. She was the one always taking the orders, and got to know her because she was a regular. And she said, okay, she ordered whatever drink. She was like, yeah, and it comes with coconut cream and fresh squeezed lime and this and this and this. And the customer said, oh yeah, honey, make it dirty. That's how that was named Dirty. She was like, that's a great idea. Let's name it Dirty. All right, so there's a couple Swig stories. Knowing who you are and sticking with it, and telling that story over and over. I hope, I didn't touch on that, but I hope you know in that brand, you can see that they're constantly telling their story over and over, just in different ways. Then team. So all of you at some point are either going to be on a team or run a team or hire a team. And so one thing that's good to know is who you are looking for? And I threw out a few things here that I thought, this is who I'm looking for sure. Someone who's competent, self-starter, who's operationally excellent, who is willing to run lean, because we run lean. When it's everyone's job, it's no one's job, so we run lean. People who can carry the culture and who can also drive performance. When it was 2017, there was a time where we started to we realized the power of our culture at Savory, and we wanted to make sure that everyone we hired, they were going to be contributors, culture carriers. And so we instituted a culture interview. So there would be an interview where we would have the technical interview. They would, go through the technical skills for the role and make sure it was a good fit. And then they would leave, and then we'd go through those candidates and say, okay, these people are going to go on to the next round. And the next round was a culture interview. And the culture interview was 4 or 5 members of the office who sat down and interviewed this person. You just got to know them. Asked questions about them, what they liked about their old job, what they're looking for work, pets, friends, family activities, all of the things, just to get to know them. And it has been crazy how really everyone we've hired has become the culture carriers that we're looking for. Not everyone, I'm sorry. Every once in a while, people do slip through the cracks. But we were specifically looking for people who aligned with our 4 values, which were competency, humility, integrity, and positivity. That was very important to us. So that's how we have made sure to curate a really strong team. You need a good, strong team. Okay, let's talk about, I told you I would deep dive on those. Shifting gears to a shift change. Jaden introduced me as the managing director. Just last week, we announced this change. And I just wanted to share with you guys a little bit, because there might be a time where a version of this might need to happen for some of you. So I've been in the CEO seat for 8 years now at Savory. And at the beginning of the year last year, I set my word of the year. My word of the year is, I shared with the group earlier, I set a word of the year as my focus. It's essentially my goal. It's probably a little more sustainable for me than a list of goals, and so I keep it for the year, and it becomes that focus. I put everything through that filter, and last year it was elevate. So at the beginning of the year, I started thinking about, how do I elevate the team? How do I elevate the work? Elevate our brands? And at Savory, we talk a lot about intellectual honesty. And what intellectual honesty also looks like is self-awareness. And so there was a moment where I was like, okay, I'd be remiss if I didn't look at myself and my role and ask myself, how do I elevate this? How do I elevate myself? And started thinking about that. And then it occurred to me that there are 2 different types of CEOs. There's the founder CEO, which was me. The founder CEO, the visionary, the fire starter, the one who put in the long days, the one who really started this thing. And then there's the executive CEO that you hire maybe at a time when you're ready for new chapters and you're ready for new doors to open, who come in with a playbook, who come in with a black book, and who really know how to drive the business with structure and scale and with skills that they have acquired over many years. So as I was thinking about this, I thought, okay, there's one name that I think would be really amazing to hire. And that would be this guy. His name's Clay Dover, but he's gainfully employed right now. He's the CEO of an amazing brand called Velvet Taco. It's a national taco brand, 54 units. I don't think he would ever consider it. But I just put it into the universe. Hadn't told anyone that I was doing this thinking around this. Well, as luck would have it, Clay called us in June and said, hey, we had been friends, of course, in the industry. Hey, I'm looking for maybe my next chapter. I'm just wondering if there's any opportunities at Savory. Andrew hung up the phone, and I said, Andrew, I don't know if this is the universe talking to us, but I have to tell you these thoughts that have bumbling around my brain for the last few months. And so I shared all of what I just shared with you with Andrew. And he was like, okay, let me think about that. He initially kind of tried to talk me out of it. And then He slept on it, and the next day he was like, there's actually a lot of wisdom in that. Let's pursue it. So for 5 months, we talked to Clay, really tried to dig in on how he thought about the world and how he thought about the work and how he felt about people and humans. Just wanted to make sure we were aligned in all of those things that are very important. And at the end of the day, sooner than 5 months later, but I told Clay about my vision for what I had for him. And so he said yes. And then, Andrew and our other partner asked, what do you want to do? And I said, I just want to be on the team. You can put me in as anything. I'll do marketing for all I care. I just want to contribute and be part of the team. And that's when Andrew and Greg came to me and said, we feel like it would be the best thing for you to be a managing director. And so the lesson in that, a managing director is the next level up. The lesson in that is in elevating my role, in elevating and bringing someone in who also elevated the role, I actually did end up elevating myself. Thought of the business first and what the business needed, not selfishly looking at me, myself, and what am I going to do and how does this make me feel, but what is the next chapter? What does the business need from me to do right now, today, in order to set it up for the future? So that was that transition, our shift change. All right, transitioning. Okay, I think we're good on time. To a few lessons learned. Jumping into it, so 80% of success is showing up. When I think about, some of these lessons learned, one of the things that I have constantly told the team and myself is that we need to be present. And here's why. You cannot delegate your success to someone else. You are the fire starter. You are the one who's going to drive the momentum, the performance, the culture. So showing up is very important. And I'm always there in support. Sometimes I'll be at an opening. I can't do anything. I have not one skill at an opening. I can't run a register. I can't run any food. I can't do anything. But I'm there, and I'll pick up a broom if I need to. And they know I'm there, and it makes a difference. It makes a difference to be present. I've also seen it done wrong, where people delegate, especially too soon, the success, and they go off on vacation early, and they leave the team to manage everything. And while the team is good, if your leader is missing from the game, it's really hard to play the game well. So yes, being present, showing up. Do it. All right. So I got this amazing quote from ChatGPT, so don't judge. But I loved it. It's so good because I'm going to talk about saying yes. Comfort can be more corrosive than fear because it convinces you nothing is wrong. Is that so good? Let me tell you this story. So I'm a big fan of saying yes. There comes a point where you have to say no. So trust me, I'm not just saying just say yes for everything. Just don't make no your default. That's what I'm going to tell you. So many years ago, I was in college down in Provo, and I was asked out on a date. This is how Andrew and I met. That's what I'm about to tell you. I was on a date, I was asked out on a date, and I think I probably would have normally said no to this date. But for some reason, I decided, yes, I am going to go. It was a group date. It was going to be fun. You were going to meet people, and we were going to go out to eat, and I'm sure we would enjoy some great food. So I was like, yeah, I'd love to go. So I go out on this date, and while I'm on this date, we are meeting all the couples, and there's one couple left, and they're like, oh, Andrew Smith, he's so fun. We just love him. They're telling all these stories about this Andrew Smith. And I was like, Andrew Smith sounds very fun. Sounds like someone I would enjoy. So anyway, Andrew's, all of a sudden, the room erupts. This couple walks in. It's Andrew Smith and this beautiful girl that he's with. And I'm like, oh, Andrew Smith is probably taken. Anyway, so we have a fun night all together. And I meet everyone, including Andrew Smith, and go about my life. And then all of a sudden, Andrew Smith moves into the apartment of the person who asked me out, who happened to be living in the same apartment. So I started seeing Andrew Smith a little more often. And I was like, oh, hello. I don't know. In my mind, I'm like, I don't know if this guy is taken. So, ladies, take note. I call over to their apartment, and Andrew Smith answers. And he's like, oh, hey, Shauna. Yeah, you're probably looking for Joey. That's the other guy I went out with. And I was like, no, I'm calling for you. I was just calling to see when you're going to ask me out. That's so not me. I am Southern. I am well-mannered. We don't do these things. But it was my 5 seconds of bravery. So here's what I will tell you, though. I said yes to that initial date that I would have otherwise said no to. And so saying yes opened an opportunity for me. So what I share with you is say yes to opportunities. It's okay to say no occasionally. I'm not saying don't ever say no. Just don't let it be your default setting. Yes keeps you open. It keeps you moving forward. It opens up the opportunities, I assure you. So say yes. All right. Success is not the result of success. Sometimes it can be very easy to look around at businesses and think, wow, all they do is toast their greatness. Wow, we're having another party. We hit another mile marker. We're doing so amazing. And you're like, but it's so hard for me. What is wrong with me? No. It's hard. If you are having any amount of success, it actually doesn't look like or feel like success. In fact, success is not the result of success. It is the result of hard work, of long days, of blood, sweat, tears, of frustration, of a lot of sacrifice, even sometimes heartbreak and failure. That's what success looks like. Trust me, I will tell you today, most days, heads down, working hard, solving hard problems that are not fun at all. But it's the job. It's what needs to happen. And the thing that I will tell you, the only difference between me and someone else who didn't make it is just that I never gave up. That's it. That's the only difference. Just kept going, just kept problem solving through it all. So just know that if it feels hard, if you're like, am I having any success at all? The fact that you're still there and still going, that is success. So keep going. Your why. I shared with you before that you have to find your why. You have to find that thing that keeps you getting out of bed every morning. I have for a very long time now looked at the people who we employ. This is just a handful of them. These guys, this team works at our office, but we have restaurants full of these people, full of amazing teams of people and brands. And when I think about, I just don't want to do it today, it's a hard one. I think about them. I think about, I have a responsibility. They are depending on me to make sure this business is sustainable so that they have jobs, so that they can put food on their table, put their kids through college, and so that they continue to sustain whatever life they have built. I have a responsibility. So that responsibility weighs on me heavily, but in a good way. I think of them first. And we were talking earlier about the difference between selfish and selfless. And it's the thing that keeps me from being selfish. Because the selfish thing would be to stay home. It would be not to leave my bed. But the selfless thing is to think of them and keep going. So they're my why. My last lesson learned is a quote from Thomas Edison. Opportunity is missed by most people because it's dressed in overalls and looks like work. You think about that. And what I want to share with you is for the first 10 years of my career, I was inside the restaurants. And if you want to think about the least glamorous work, I will share that with you. It's a joy. It's a joy to serve people. But you're also cleaning up disgusting things. You're having hard conversations. You're in there with a hat and hairnet, scooping pumpkin bread out at 2 in the morning because you need more at 7 a.m. There's a lot that is just not attractive about that, and it really is hard work. But when I think about the opportunity and where I am today, I would not have changed that. You know, it was asked earlier, I can't remember how it was asked, but like, how have I stayed grounded? And I would say it's probably that, because I force myself to realize that the most important work is the hard work that is done inside the four walls. It's the dirty jobs, it's the hard things, and never to be above it. I've always said to all of our team, I would never ask you to do something that I would not be willing to do. And that's important as a leader, that you never expect something or ask something of your employees or your team that you wouldn't be willing to do. And sometimes it's important to actually get out there and to do it. So yes, that is, let me make sure. I think that's my last lesson learned for all of you. I had one last one that I don't have a slide for, but I shared it a little bit, and I shared it talking about one of the women, wanting to be a mom and have a business at the same time. But I'll say it to all of you. The only advice that I really should ever give anyone, or that anyone should give anyone, is that you can do anything. You can do anything you want, anything that you set your mind out to do. Work hard, show up, build a network, learn it all, and figure it out. There might be times where you have to shift gears, say no to some things so that you can say yes to others, and that's okay. But you can do anything. And that's what I'll leave you with. You can do anything. Do I stay? Oh, we have 15 minutes for questions, y'all. Ask me some questions. Or I'm just going to start pointing at you and force you to... Hey, sir, in the glasses. What's your name? Hi, Jake. Yes. I didn't know any of it. It was literally like, I felt it. It felt right. And it really was that. Here's what I'll say about that time. I did not know how much I didn't know. I didn't know. I had no idea how to run a business, much less a bakery and cafe. I knew nothing about finding real estate. I knew nothing about our customer, and even the demographics of the area. That one was truly a gut decision combined with luck. And sometimes you do have to just, I say that, and yet I'm a data junkie. It's so hard to say, like, just go for it. But I would say now we're smarter. You can gather better data now. I think back then I did just truly get lucky. Good question. Who else? All right, I see it. Oh, Andrew. My friend Andrew in the orange coat. Hey, we met outside. That's how I know Andrew. Andrew, do you have any questions for me? Yeah. Great question. And I probably should have Christian answer part of this since I have my own son here. I won't put you on the spot, son. Don't worry. But let me think about this. So very busy, and there's so much going on at all times. So what I will say is that what I learned was, there's this buzzword called balance, and I thought, okay, I need to be more balanced. I need to find balance. It just never existed for me. How I found the balance was that it kind of became a triage. There's an emergency room triage. Whoever's bleeding the most gets the attention first. And so it became a game of triage. Sometimes it was the business that was bleeding the most. Sometimes it was the children bleeding the most. Sometimes I was bleeding the most. Maybe I got sick or something. And so it really did become like a little game of triage overall. I always tried to make sure I made time for the family and the kids. So then I came up with my routine, which was work in the day, come home, do the afternoon and evening routine, and then I could do the work thing like homework, essentially, after the kids were in bed. So started kind of in different seasons of life, had different routines. So it kind of just depended. But that is a great question. So triage, balance is a myth, and yeah, that's how I've been able to do all of it. Oh, and lots of I'm sorries. There was lots of apologies. Okay, who else? Hey, sir, tell me your name. Brock, hello. Okay. Well, let's see, milestones on scale. One milestone that I didn't know existed, every time you triple your business, you basically break everything. Like not intentionally, accidentally. It just like the systems and the processes are no longer relevant. And so when I think about every time we tripled our business, we had to almost recreate the systems and processes that got us to where we were and up level in a way. So there is, what I think about is like right now with scaling our businesses and our brands, even at Savory, there's the small business or, the 1 to 10 units that it works. These are the systems and processes that work for that. And then the systems and processes that work for, call it 10 to 20, even 10 to 30 units. And then the 30 to 50, that's a totally different set of systems and processes and platforms that you need to run the business off of and all of that. So there's that. Milestones, some of them were that. What's interesting is a couple years ago, I was doing one of these presentations, and we have a bunch of quants that work for us, finance peeps, you know what that is. And one of them came to me and they were like, do you know you created like $2 billion in revenue in the economy? And I was like, no clue. Why would I know that? Anyway, so that felt like a big milestone for us. Like, wow, because I want to contribute to society. I want to do good in the universe. And so I knew that creating revenue and all of that meant also we've created jobs, we've created happiness, we've given vendors jobs. It helps everyone overall. And then what was the other part? Okay. Oh, from one-man operation to hiring your first employee. Okay, so I haven't done that for a while. That was 2008 for me. And when I think about that, what I would say is, I put down the secret sauce of scale and talking about the strong brand and probably strong brand, but then also there's the capital and team, not team yet, you're not ready for the team, and your why. I would say focusing on building that brand first, making sure you've got that. I'd get lots of feedback from everyone around me and make sure that this is a good thing. And then I would start getting the word out and getting capital, because you're going to have capital in order to hire a team and to actually get the product. So I would say that's kind of the order that I would start going in. You kind of have to have, the product is going to have to be, you're making it on your own. I'm just thinking like if I'm a retailer, I only know restaurants. So like if I'm going to make a great outfit, you got to be able to sew the outfit and show it and get people to back you. So it's finding good support and backing first. Yeah. The secret sauce of scale. That's a good one. Okay, Comfort. Hello. What's your name? Hi, Ashley. What's up? Okay, that's a good question. Really good question. And here's okay. GFC. So all the banks were upside down with all the, all the banks were upside down. I'm not going to go into what was happening. You guys know. But banks were still loaning money. And so we went to them with that first location and said, it's going to cost us probably about $2 million. We need to buy the land, build the building, stock and train, and then open. So we're thinking $2 million. They're like, great, 70-30. And we were like, okay, you bank, give us 70 and we'll put in 30. That should be great. And they were like, no. We put in 30, you put in 70. And that's when we were like, 70% of 2 million? That's a lot. So, of course, we had our own savings. And so we did bet on ourselves. So that was the chunk of it, a big chunk of it. And then what we did was we took on partners. And we took on partners who put in money in that initial location. And they were going to help be operating partners. They were actually going to come in and do the work and put in sweat equity and also a little bit of financial help. And so let me share with you this. They ended up not loving being operating partners. It was a lot for them. It is not for the faint of heart. Not only running your business and being an entrepreneur, but restaurants. It's not for the faint of heart. And so they were like, this isn't working for me. I'm out. Well, just because it wasn't working for them and they weren't willing to put in the time didn't mean that they had any less equity. So it was the bed we made. We continued to work that business, even though they still kept their same amount of ownership because of the initial investment that they made. And they ended up making that back eventually, which was very good for them, making it back with a return. But I will say, I learned a thing or two about setting things up the right way if you're taking on partners. And setting it up in a way that the expectations are very clear, probably even laid out in a contract reviewed by an attorney. Get an attorney. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Awesome. Well, let me tell you two different stories. So Swig, we said we are not franchising under our watch. We don't want to do that. We're not ready to do that. But if there's any model that could be a franchise model, it is Swig, or it was Swig. And so when we sold to Larry H. Miller Group, the first thing we did, we still have some ownership, 20% of ownership with the Swig brand. Proudly, and we are so proud to partner with Larry H. Miller. They're amazing. And they said, we should franchise. This is amazing. And we said, you know what? We should try it. We had 55 or 60 units at the time, a very proven business model. And so we were able to roll out franchising and have every scenario under the sun and really create a successful franchise for these franchisees in the Swig brand. So I would say, a lesson learned there is proving it out first, making sure at any revenue volume that you can still be profitable, and then also as a franchisor wanting the success of your franchisees. So that's one example. There's another example. Right now, we're in the middle of franchising a smaller brand. We still haven't got everything figured out in this brand, and so it feels a little early to be franchising. And so what we're focused on is figuring out every detail, the nuts and bolts, including processes and systems, before we go out and replicate this. Because if we replicate what we're currently doing, not a good thing. So that's kind of where we're at with the two. And we've learned we want to be good franchise partners. So I would say one of our learnings is that there's always a rub with franchisee and franchisor. But good communication, wanting truly what is best for the franchisees, and really, I would say good communication and a good plan for those franchisees set them up for success, and then a better relationship between the two. Is that okay? Oh, keep going. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Well, I would say the more experience you have as a franchisee, the more negotiating power you're going to have. If you're a first time, you might not have as much negotiating power, and you kind of have to accept what is offered. I'm saying that because I've been on both sides. So that's what I would say. So if you did have maybe an experienced someone who has been in the franchise business before, who could partner with you to help you with negotiating that, that would be really good for negotiating overall. Gosh, off the top, let me think of some ideas or tactics on that, on good negotiating leverage. Okay, thank you. Okay, I saw a hand and a hand. Gray shirt. Oh, okay, great question. I was constantly taking on what I would call taking on a partner. There's the buzzword of mentor. And sometimes if you say to people, would you be my mentor? They're like, oh, that's kind of a responsibility. I would just say, hey, teach me this thing. Or I need someone to impart some wisdom about this, that, or the other. Those who have gone before you and have good experience, they're willing to share it with you, but most of the time they're busy. So the best thing I did was just basically leaned on people to teach and impart and share, but not necessarily just constantly picking their brains. When I did want to pick their brains, I would try to do something for them and then say, hey, I've got this question for you. So that was my way of getting my foot in the door, was I had something for them, or I could do a favor for them, and then they would do a favor for me. But I will tell you, it's so important to have those people, especially as close as possible, because there have been some complicated yarn ball problems that I have had in the business, Andrew and I have had in the business, that we leveraged those relationships of people who had gone through difficult situations like that and who helped us navigate it. They were so much smarter than we were to those specific problems. So taking on a partner, I would call it, mentorship for sure. Okay, back in the back. And one more question in the back. I don't know. Let's see. Probably when we hired someone to do it, I wasn't doing it, that's for sure. I would say marketing efficiently. It was probably a few years in, I'll be honest. A lot of what we did was word of mouth. It was people who knew the brands, and so they were coming in. I would say it was probably 5-6 years into the business before we were really looking at all the right metrics and marketing efficiently, and then measuring the returns. I'm still a little furry on the marketing metrics, so still trying to figure those out. But I'd say, it was a few years in. We were really lucky to ride on brand recognition for a very long time, and just word of mouth overall. Good question.